Legend Total War here, and today I want to discuss very briefly about some news that Total War posted on Twitter. It's only a very small amount of information, but we can speculate a lot from it, and has to do with Total War Warhammer 2. Now, for a while now, we've known that an update has been coming for an old world race. It's been heavily hinted it's going to be the Empire, and that seems to be confirmed. So, Total War posted this image on Twitter, which, by the way, if you haven't already, follow me on Twitter. My handle is Total War Legend. I don't use Twitter that much, but when I do post stuff, it's always relevant information. You won't ever see me posting things like what I had for breakfast. So chuck me a follow on Twitter. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, enough of the shameless plug. Back to this. So we've got half of a poster with it torn up just enough so that you can speculate without really knowing for certain what it is. So this is obviously an Empire Lord. So if there was any speculation that was going to be a greenskin Lord, that's at least not at this stage not correct, because it was a toss-up between Empire and greenskins as to which is going to get the update. And they're not going to add a Lord without actually updating the actual faction itself, especially if I'm right about which Lord this is actually going to be. So let's just go through it from the top down. Hunters wanted, fancy a fine voyage beyond the borders of Reichland. Treasures and trophies await for all that can track troublesome beasts in the jungle. Adventure for the fearless and soon to be wealthy. Sign up today. Now, it's not a lot of information, but we can actually speculate quite a bit from this. So, fancy a voyage beyond the borders of Reichland. That probably means that this dude here is not going to be set up within the traditional borders of the Empire. Oh, damn, I think I'm going to crash this a little bit doing that. It's not going to be out here. Because another thing as well, when looking at this, you can see a part of a banner down here, and the shape of it looks it's they didn't put any information in here that isn't relevant. Right? This is a faction banner. Now, none of the other Empire banners fit with this. I went and checked them all. None of them have these arrows pointing out here. That leads me to believe that this guy here is not going to attach to any previously already existing Empire faction. He's not going to be in Middenland. He's not going to be in Averland. He's just not going to be present in the old world. Because based on this here, this dude's going to Lustria. So we're going to have an Empire presence in Lustria. Now that's a bit weird because Lustria is already a really deeply concentrated area full of legendary lords. There's a lot going on in Lustria at the beginning of the campaign, but at the moment, there's no Empire presence. So putting this dude in there, in that bloody shit show in Lustria, things are gonna get pretty hectic. So I imagine that if this is the starting position for this lord in Lustria, it's probably going to be a very difficult start position because there's vampiric corruption, lizard men, and I'm sure they're all gonna hate you. Now, another thing is that this dude here is going to be apparently tracking down beasts, which leads me to believe that part of this dude's mechanic is going to be something like that Norska has, that they're going to be hunting down beasts, similar to what Norska does, which is very much sort of like a side quest in the Norska campaign, but it is interesting nonetheless, and quite challenging. So, who is this? I've left that long enough. Who is this dude? So, I'm not familiar that much with Warhammer Fantasy. Prior to Total War Warhammer, I've never played any Warhammer Fantasy games, and I've never played tabletop. So, I came at a bit of a disadvantage when trying to find out who this dude was. But, luckily, I've got this friend called Google, and all I had to do was type in Warhammer Fantasy Empire characters. And it gave me a list of Empire characters, and all I had to do was look at the images and sort of create a match. So, there were two that I thought that it was possible it could be, just based on the image. There was Marius Leitdorf and Marcus Wolfhart. Now, Marius Leitdorf is the Elector Count, or a Lord of Averland. Doesn't make sense for it to be him. Plus, his feathers are way bigger. It doesn't really make sense to be him. That's not to say that he's not coming, eventually. But at least, I don't think that's this dude. Marcus Wolfhart makes perfect sense. So I've got a wiki page open here, and I was reading up a little bit about him. and it makes perfect sense. Now, one of the great things about this dude here, and for Total War Warhammer, is that Creative Assembly aren't going to want to make DLC just for Mortal Empires. They're not going to make, or an FLC. I don't know if this is going to be a DLC or an FLC. Hard to say at this point. Because if they're going to create something new for essentially a Total War Warhammer start position, as in the first game, it's not going to be able to be applied into the Vortex campaign. Now, not everybody who owns Warhammer 2 owns Warhammer 1, and Creative Assembly already get a lot of shit for essentially Mortal Empires as it is. People buy Warhammer 2 thinking they can get more Mortal Empires, and then they can't. Just because they're just not particularly well informed. That's always been the case. I've known that that's how it's going to work ever since Warhammer 1. And that's how it will work with Warhammer 3 as well. You'll have to own all 3 games to get the Mortal Empires 2, so to speak. Anyway, but if this guy's going to start off in Lustria, that means that he'll have a place in the Vortex campaign. So that's going to be interesting if this dude, we're going to have another race playable in the Vortex campaign that is probably not he's probably not going after the Vortex, but he'll be going on like a monster hunt, sort of like the Vampire Coast, but in more of the lines of what Norska does. So Creative Assembly, according to, I'm just purely speculating here. I could be 100% wrong about this, but they're leading. This is a really strong trail of breadcrumbs here, and it seems to me like they're reusing a few mechanics. There's nothing wrong with that as long as it's done right. They're, essentially giving an Empire faction Norska missions in a Vortex start position. Now, let's talk a little bit about Marcus Wolfhart. This guy is technically part of the Empire. So even if this dude is set up in Lustria with his own faction, it's likely that he'll be able to confederate with the Empire, at least on Mortal Empires. Probably not in the Vortex if he is there. Now, he does actually have a place in the officers as well. He's the captain of the Scouts or the Hunts Marshal. Now, currently in the officers tab, there isn't a place for that, leading me to believe that a new office position might be created for him. I'm not sure how this is going to work for the Vortex campaign because the Empire is simply not present. I really doubt that if his start position is down here, that isn't in the Vortex campaign, that he'll simply just be able to recruit Karl Franz. So that's going to be really interesting to see how they'll play in the Vortex campaign, only having one possible Lord. Maybe he'll be able to create his own unique type of Lord, like Captain Scouts or something. Hard to say, we've got such little information, but this has definitely piqued my interest, and I'm looking forward to covering it. Now, am I going to get early access? I don't think so. I'd like to. I really would. I'd really love to cover this. Because I've been really waiting for something new for the Empire for quite some time. It feels like they're just lacking behind in terms of mechanics with the New World races. Because, as has been discussed a few times, there is a bit of a power creep issue. Now, I don't know what other units are going to be applied to the Empire, but if this dude is going to be attached, there's probably going to be some kind of, not necessarily unique, but a type of like huntsman or Empire huntsman, like another type of crossbowman, but maybe a long-range archer, similar to maybe, Lothern's archers or High Elf archers, maybe about 170 range. It'd be hard to expect for them to have the same range as the High Elves in general, like 180 range. So I'd reckon they'd have about 170 range. They could end up having 160. Hard to say. I mean, I'm speculating on units that we haven't even had any confirmation on yet. But usually they don't attach a new Lord with just no additional units. So I'm pretty sure more stuff will be coming aside from that. But anyway, I've pretty much speculated about as much as I can out of that. Squeeze this one dry. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think, whether you think I'm right or wrong. I really do strongly believe it is going to be Marcus Wolfhart. but we won't know until it's actually 100% confirmed. And look at that, I just managed to get this video to 10 minutes. So I'm done here, guys. I'll be live streaming as of pretty much right now. That's why the live stream today was delayed. And I'll see you soon, fuckers.